No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Something is about to break.
So many exciting things coming up. First of all, we finally opened a Twitter account, folks. We've come out of the dark ages. Now, About to Break Podcast was too long, so our Twitter handle is About to Break Pod. Just think like you're trying to open an edamame and you'll get the idea of it. About to Break Pod on Twitter. Go ahead and follow us there. This is where we're going to post tons of information about upcoming shows. In fact, I want to let you know about some live shows happening. I will be in Seattle, Washington on April 1st. It's April Fool's Day. We got an April Fool's Day show with Zach Gander, my buddy from Counterculture Society, who was on the podcast recently. We will be in Seattle, Washington together for an April Fool's Day show. On April 1st at the Pocket Theater in Seattle, downtown. April 29th, I'm going to be at the Sycamore Inn here in Upland, California, my hometown, with my cousin Obi from a recent podcast. He and his band Ellington Hawk will be there. I'll be hosting the show. It's going to be a fun night, and you can get information about both of those coming up by following us on Twitter or by following along at abouttobreakpodcast.com. Big thank you to everyone who's been supporting the show on Patreon. If you love the show and you want to support it financially, we don't have a sponsor right now, so all that money goes to help offset the cost of producing these shows. You can give $1 a month, $5 a month, whatever it's worth to you. All you got to do is go to abouttobreakpodcast.com, scroll down on the homepage to where it says Become a Producer, and sign up for whatever you'd like to donate each month. I'm so excited for this episode because it features Julie Brister, who was my first teacher in improv at UCB. She's an incredible performer herself. In fact, she's featured on the season 3 of Review on Comedy Central, which starts Thursday night. It starts tomorrow night if you're listening to this the day it comes out. So not only can you catch Julie on season 3 of Comedy Central show Review, you can also catch her right now. Enjoy my conversation with the amazing Julie Brister. Hey everybody, welcome to About to Break. I'm your host Taylor Hughes, and I'm here today with the amazing Julie Brister, who is a actor, director, mentor, coach, teacher. I met Julie when I was doing improv at UCB, and we're actually sitting here at UCB Sunset, and we're talking about life and art. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Taylor.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Well, thank you for having me.
I know I've said that like 5 times since we got in the building, but I just could not be more excited that we're gonna talk here.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited.
So fun. So one of the things we talk about here is we talk about art and we talk about life. So let's talk about those. How did you get started in this crazy circus called entertainment?
Well, I was a theater major, so I knew. So I was already gravitating towards that. But after college, I interned in New York, and it's so hard when you don't understand the business.
Yeah.
And you don't learn the business, I think, in most college theater programs. You not all. I mean, I'm sure that the kids at Emerson or at Yale or at NYU or at Carnegie Mellon, have a class in the business of acting,
right.
at some point, or they're trained in that way. But I certainly wasn't. And so I was flummoxed. I didn't understand like how to really get a job other than like combing backstage and going on auditions, and sometimes you could, and then I realized I had to get a job, and then I had a job for a long time.
Is that because the focus in school is more on the technique and the art of it and the performance?
Definitely, like in my case, I went to a great school in Texas, Southwestern University, which is a small private liberal arts college. But it's not a theater school, and I can't say that my theater training there was like the kind of training that you're going to get at a school like NYU or at another school. And also, it took me a while to realize this. As an undergraduate, you're not going to get a lot of jobs in the theater. They want grad students, and they want grad students from Yale and
the whole
again
don't trust
NYU.
anyone under 30 kind of attitude.
They want people who've been through grad school programs, and there was just no way I was going to go get my MFA in gonna go back and get my MFA.
And was your focus at this point solely dramatic acting? Like,
I loved comedy, but I definitely was bent more towards drama.
Yeah.
Like I actually, I can't say that I did comedy and I loved comedy, but personally,
Right.
I liked dramatic stuff at that time better because I was kind of dramatic.
so when you went into, I think all artists are a little dramatic.
Yeah, but it was right up my alley. I would much rather have done something like really, really depressing than something funny. Even though like I did comedy all through college and did comedies, I should say, all through college and loved them and did well at them.
So did you find yourself like enjoying dark humor then? If you liked,
I still like dark humor.
Yeah.
Like if it's sad, like I love Louis. You know,
so
and
good.
like I relate a lot more to that than any sitcom.
It's real.
Yeah, I'd rather see that.
I forget, there was a guy, and this was years ago. I'm gonna have to punch this in and remember who he was. He was a stand-up, but he had a show called Only the Truth is Funny.
Oh, God, this is familiar to me.
But I saw someone shared a YouTube clip with me once, but he basically opened with this monologue about how we're all dying. And this is back when comedy was just, observational airport, something funny happened at the grocery store. And he did this whole thing about how, like, from the moment we enter the world is, like, going against us, and we're all dying and this and that. And then he went, like, hi, welcome to the show. It was just funny that it was just this, you're expecting it just to be funny. And then he basically said, everything you're going to hear tonight is true, and that's why it's funny. I've always thought that's kind of a cool approach of,
Yeah, who did that? It's not Stephen Wright, is it?
It's not Stephen Wright, but it's someone along the same vein.
Yeah.
I mean, Stephen would...
Yeah, comedy certainly has changed.
It has.
Since the 80s.
I was telling someone the other day, I felt like in the 80s, comedy was more of the comedians were the court jesters.
Yeah, it's like a colorful jacket.
Yeah. Everyone's wearing a blazer and, tennis shoes with the jeans and the blazer. And
yeah, I always think of like Richard Jeni and like a bright blue jacket.
Yes. It's a little bit too big for him. And
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was always like, hey, help us forget about life. And I feel like now, you bring up Louis, but I feel like you go to see comedians now, and they're almost like the philosophers of the day. Like,
I see that.
Bringing up truth not to avoid it, but to kind of challenge us in a way.
Oh, yeah. I agree. I definitely agree with that. Like, Louis certainly does that. Bill Burr.
Oh, yeah.
Has some of that in him. Yeah, definitely.
So you're in school. You're going for theater. Had you, at this point, when you had gone into theater for college, had you done any sort of auditioning or acting before that or outside of school?
Yes, I had in high school. Well, and actually starting earlier, I started taking children's theater classes when I was 8 at the local theater center that we had in my hometown of Lubbock, Texas. And I did productions there. And we would do things like The Adventures of Brer Rabbit and... there was always like a Christmas show. They did Alice in Wonderland. The last show I did with them that I remember was Rumpelstiltskin. And I remember when we did Rumpelstiltskin, I was maybe like 7th grade.
Okay.
Like I was getting a little bit older.
What do you know what character you were playing?
I was the mother of the I wasn't a queen. I was a mother, or maybe I was a queen. I don't know. I was the mother of the girl who Rumpelstiltskin like had the hots for.
Okay.
And when we did the show, like they laughed at every line I did, and I would come off stage and I would be angry. Why are they laughing at me? What is happening? I was so upset. And then my dad convinced me, like in the car on the way home, it's because you're funny. It's because what you're saying, you're saying things in a way that's very, very funny.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be angry that people are finding you funny.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. And I knew that I was funny before then.
Yeah.
But like when I didn't want to be like I really didn't I was taking this production of Rumpelstiltskin very seriously.
And no other child your age is thinking this way. They're just
no way.
If I do the play, I can miss science class if I can do the play.
Yeah, and then when I was in high school, I had a wonderful drama teacher named Mr. Adele. And he was just instrumental in bringing me in and gave me so many opportunities and was so supportive and wonderful. And then he encouraged me to take speech class because they had in speech you had debate where the losers were, and then you had oral and terp where all the cool kids were, and I really that resonated with me. And so I don't know if they had this in your high school. Like we had these UIL competitions where you would, they weren't all UIL, like some of them were just these tournaments you would go on.
You're competing against other schools.
You would compete against other schools in poetry, reading prose, or dramatic interpretation, or comedic interpretation, or duet acting, which is just doing a scene.
Yeah.
And so I had my dramatic, and I had my comedic. I had something in every category, and I started doing tournaments, and I just won all the time. And then when I was a junior, we had again in University Interscholastic League has this competition that's statewide, or although I think it's national. I don't know if every state does UIL. And we have a one-act play competition, and we did this play, very little-known play, one-act play called The Unknown Soldier. And it was an ensemble, and it was a really interesting, weird little play. And I had a part that I just fell in love with. And we kept winning, and we went to state. And I won Best Actress at state. Wow. And so from that, I got a scholarship to the University of Texas. Wow. But I turned that down because I really wanted to go to SMU.
Okay.
And I didn't get into SMU. Yeah. And so I ended up at Southwestern University, the smaller school, who was the mother school of SMU. And I'm glad I didn't go to SMU. Yeah. I'm glad I went to SU. But I would have had a better, probably like a more rigorous theater education at SMU. Yeah, I think so.
So when did you know that you wanted to... You knew you wanted to go study this in school. At that point, did you know I want to make a career out of this? Or what was the point?
I knew that when I was like 5 years old. I knew I wanted to be an actor. Yeah. Did you know that you always wanted to be a magician?
When I was a kid, I was 6 and I knew when I was 6 years old, I was like, I want to do special effects in the movies. Like that was my dream, because I just loved movies, and I would get so engrossed in them, and I would watch, the weird 80s version of documentaries we had where, it'd be like the behind the scenes of Back to the Future. And every week we would go. This was before even Blockbuster. We had like Music Plus out here in California.
What's that?
It's like a video rental store. And we had Warehouse Music and Tower Records, that kind of thing. And so I would go every week to Music Plus, and I would rent the VHS of Michael Jackson's The Making of Thriller. It was so funny. My dad would take us, and somehow every weekend, he never bought the movies, but every weekend my sister would rent, was it The Firestarter with Drew Barrymore?
Oh, yeah.
She loved that movie.
That's a great movie.
And then like years later, I was like, why were you so into that? It's a little creepy that she was like so into that one movie.
Into Firestarter.
About this young girl who would make bad things happen with her mind.
Yeah.
But then I would watch Back to the Future, or not Back to the Future. I would watch The Making of Thriller, and I was so into like the special effects of how they turn people into monsters and all this. And then when I saw a magic show when I was like 7, 8 years old, I was like, this is like the same thing, but you're right in front of people. And you get like the immediate response. But yeah, I think when I was in high school, we did a play, and it was a play about this group putting on a play. And during this production, everything's supposed to fall apart. So like the guy, there's like three people who are
Is this
supposed to-
Noises Off?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's like this part where, I think it was Noises Off. There's this part where there's like three characters who just quit. And so one person has to do all the...
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I had to play like three different roles in this play.
Oh, wow.
And that was the first time I was like, I want to do this. Like, I want to be on stage because it was so fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so good. When I would do plays, like and also in college, and I got frustrated with this, but now I just like, this is just kind of who I am and how I read. I always played people older than me. And
well, you were a mother when you were like 12, and that one Rumpelstiltskin.
Right. So like, there's that Rumpelstiltskin, and then when I was in the first production I did in college was we did a production of The Children's Hour.
Okay.
Lillian Hellman's lesbian drama, The Children's Hour.
Yeah.
But we had to wring out any like mention of lesbianism. In the
why
show.
Are we even doing? Why don't we do a different play if we're going to take out what makes this
right? But
what
it's,
it is?
Texas can be so stupid,
Yeah.
and so I played Grandmother Tilford, and I remember I was 18 and I'm playing Grandmother Tilford, and I'm like, oh, okay, I kind of like that I'm playing Grandmother Tilford, and then the next thing I did was like the mother in Plaza Suite, and then I did like the mother in like Hay Fever, and then my theater dean, the head of the department, he wanted to cast me in something else as an older woman, and I said, no, I want to play somebody my age. And he got mad. And I was like, I think I shouldn't have done that. And so I didn't get that part. And then the next thing I did was another mother. It was like another mother of the ingenue.
Yeah.
And I had a friend later who was like he's a younger guy, but like he reads old. Like he seems like an older person. I was like, you're not going to work until you're 40.
Wow.
Until you're like at least a little older.
Just because the way he reads doesn't match what he looks like or his...
Yeah, and I was right. He works all the time now.
Wow.
He works all the time. But like as a 22-year-old kid, there was no way nobody was going to cast him reading the way that he kind of read.
And he's stuck with it though. Like,
oh yeah, he's funny. He's really good.
such a weird thing we do.
I know, it's so strange. It's so strange.
So what happens out of college? You go to college. Mentioned like,
yeah.
There's this whole thing of you go and you think, okay, now I'm going to be a working actor, and
right, I still remember the conversation that Doc, the same guy who I was like, I'm not going to do any more old lady parts. Doc was like, okay, everybody needs to have headshots, and so I asked my friend Doug to take some black and white photos of me, like out in his field, and he took like these photos. I was like, I'm going to turn these into headshots.
Yeah.
And I tried to, and like that never worked. And I didn't get headshots in New York until I'd been there for about a year.
Okay.
And then I got some great ones. I got them with Arthur Cohen, who at the time was the guy you go to for headshots.
Yeah.
And then I just had like a huge stack of them that just gathered dust.
You're like, I'm gonna need 5,000 headshots.
Yeah, I did. I had so many. I think, and I spent a mint at that time. This was like 1989, and I think
this is before like.
I think I spent $300 on my headshots,
Wow.
and that was like crazy to spend that much money. But they're great. They're great. It's fun to look at them now.
Yeah.
And then I interned at an acting studio.
Okay. This is in New York?
In New York City. And then when that internship was over, I still worked for the woman who I worked for in the internship. But it was more like, it wasn't... I was taking classes, but I was like, is this when acting classes are really like it was a really fruity really weird, inaccessible kind of methodology.
Shady, or like this is really the way they thought would teach people, like Mr. Miyagi stuff. Like
okay. Well,
why am I washing your car? And
not even. I was doing stuff like that.
Okay.
Like I was doing like stuff for her. Her philosophy that she had created, and oh gosh, I don't think she's ever going to hear this. I'm not going to call her by name.
I'm sure she doesn't listen to my podcast.
but she created this thing called BioArt Theater Laboratory, and it was about the combination between the theater, acting, and science. And I was like, what? I did not understand it. And like whenever I'll still go, she has a website, I'll still go look at the website and I'll look at their mission statement and I just fog out. I was like, I don't know what any of this means. I don't understand. And I'm a relatively intelligent person. I just don't understand this bullshit.
I love that she threw science in there.
Yes, and she's in Paris now. Like she lives in Paris, and so like they're eating it up. But I was in this acting class.
Science of acting.
We would do a seated meditation before class, and I actually really loved.
Yeah.
And we would all sit in this circle, and she had a great voice, and she'd be like, imagine there's a golden root system growing from the bottom of your feet to the golden core of the center of the earth. And then she would say, one day she goes, okay, everybody, breathe through your left foot. And I died. And I'm like 22, and I'm in this class with like people who are a lot older than me, and I'm like dying laughing, and they're looking at me like, why aren't you breathing through your feet? And I was like, is this what acting is like in New York? Is this what people do? And then I was like, bye, peace out.
Yeah.
I got a job. I got a real job.
Yeah.
And then I had real jobs for a while until I returned to taking acting classes.
Okay.
A few years later with somebody who was a little more rational.
Okay. What pulled you back out of the real job world?
Oh, I was so depressed because I wasn't doing anything creative, and it was a great job, but it was also soul sucking.
Yeah.
I worked. Bless them. I work at the New York Philharmonic.
Yeah.
Which that's a great company to work for.
Right.
But our office was like in a bunker. We were basically underground. We had no daylight. We all smoked.
Yeah.
And this is when you could still smoke at work.
Inside,
it was just so grim. But the people were wonderful.
Yes.
The people were fantastic. But it was a customer service position.
Yep.
And it just makes you hate people after a while when you have people in their entitlement, like the kind of person that has a subscription to New York Philharmonic is a pretty entitled person from Connecticut. So, it's dealing with those people.
And probably the nature of working for the Philharmonic. When you say, I work for the Philharmonic, people go, that must be wonderful. And
right.
It's like a little part of me dies every day.
I remember, like, I smoked. I was a smoker. And then when the law was passed that you can't smoke at work anymore, and it's like, okay, so that means I'll be able to take smoke breaks.
Okay.
And I would go out through this back door, like through our where all the computers were, the IT department, and I would go out there and I would sit at the reflecting pool that's between the back of Avery Fisher Hall, or Avery Fisher's called something else that I don't care, and the Vivian Beaumont Theater. There's a reflecting pool there with a Henry Moore sculpture, and I would sit there and it's like, this should be a dream for another person,
that's so good,
to work
though.
like you're sitting in this beautiful setting, and I would enjoy my cigarette, and then I would go back in there and just like die to go home.
I love that you said though that you had the thought process of this is someone else's dream job.
Yeah.
It's not that this is a bad thing, and I feel like One of the things that always comes up on these kind of conversations is that as artists, I feel like it's such a privileged conversation we have because at the end of the day, if we do make money at this, we get paid to play, to do the thing that we love. So I always am like not wanting to sound ungrateful for the life that we have.
No.
And yet, I love that you have that perspective of, it's not that this job sucks. This is not the job for me.
Right. No. And some of the jobs suck, but... but I know what you mean. It's like I've had a lot of jobs. I'll tell you, even the shitty ones.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I had a lot of jobs because I can't stand working with people, especially young people, who aren't working regular jobs because they have
the resource or parents or the ability to just parachute
I
into
resent
LA.
the hell out of that. They also have they're not interesting.
Yeah.
They're not interesting.
Good art comes from pain, comes from sacrifice, comes from experience. And if you don't have those things, what do you have to offer? You know?
And you call on events and things from your life, and you should have knowledge of different types of things, and I shouldn't say that it's just young people. It's just entitled people, like people that haven't. Like the kind of person who gets an acting job at 22 and then never has to work. It's like, I hate you.
Yeah.
I do.
They get that one gig and they're getting the mailbox money for life because of that one gig.
Yeah, but it's like, what do you know about the ticket exchange policy of the New York Philharmonic? Nothing.
Yeah. You work at the Philharmonic, and then when is the moment? Because you started going back and taking acting classes while you were still there, is that right?
I had left. A few things. I worked at the Philharmonic, and then I was like, what am I doing with my life?
I thought that this morning.
I'm 24. I quit my job. I bought a ticket to Paris.
Oh, that's rad.
I had friends that lived in Paris, and I went and I stayed with them. And had a wonderful time with them, mooching off of my friends in Paris who were wonderful, and then loved it, and then came back to New York, and it was like, oh, I gotta get a job. And
the reality set in.
Yeah.
Like, I can't just walk around with a baguette and a bottle of wine.
No. And living off of my friends I'm living in their apartment out of the kindness of their hearts, and. So I combed the Village Voice for a new job, and I saw an unglamorous job in show business and a phone number. I was like, unglamorous? I like glamour, but I can be unglamorous. I just like the word show business.
Strangely intriguing article, right? Or ad right there.
Right? And so I called the number, and it was this prop house called State Supply Equipment and Props.
All right.
And I went in, I interviewed. I had no experience doing the kind of work that they did, but I learned, and I did that for just beyond the summer. Okay. I did it for a few months. So from like the spring through part of the fall, and left there. Where did I go? To be unemployed again for a little while. Yeah. And I was unemployed for a few months, and then I returned to the Philharmonic.
Okay.
And worked there, not as a full-time employee, but like as a temp employee, and that's how I could take acting class while I was working there.
Did that make it okay, or what was it like going back to that job when you had left?
It was okay. I was grateful for it because again, I loved the people that I worked with, and so I did that, and I was in an acting class. Yeah. And then things started to demystify a little bit, like in that class, and talking to other people who worked, and talking to other people who had things going on. Yeah. And but acting classes, I think, certainly in New York, and I'm sure this is the same in LA, even though I've never taken an acting class in LA. Yeah. Are a trap. Eventually, like if it's beware of the ongoing class, the class that doesn't have that's like not over in 6 weeks.
Yeah, there's no course. You start here, you take it to this point, and then...
Yeah, because you'll have some people in that class who work, and then you'll have most of the people in the class that view the class, and the day that they get to do their scene is the day that they perform. And I think sometimes teachers can be a little guru-ish, and they want to keep you keep you there. And I started. I was in a class, and I'm sure that a lot of actors will have this story. I was in a class where, like, literally, you do an exercise called private moment. You're doing showing a moment in your life that you would do in private, but you have, like, your peers sitting out in front of you and your acting teacher.
Right.
And I've seen people in their private moment do things that... like one guy masturbated
in the class.
Wow. And the teacher didn't stop him, and I was like, that's really fucked up. And every woman took off her clothes, and I was like, what? Like how is this making you a better actor?
Exactly.
It's like maybe it's making you more comfortable, like, with your body and showing your body, and hip hip hooray for that. But like, how you're just you're taking a risk that you don't really have to take. It's like it really, really bugged me because
just because it's weird doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah,
like, sometimes it is, but
like there's just no way in hell that I'm going to take my clothes off in my acting class.
Right.
And that is, I don't feel challenged by that. And so I started really, there's a thing in acting classes where they're not direct.
Okay.
And I just want you to be direct. And when I started taking improv, it was like, there's no bullshit here.
Right.
You're just there's no meandering. You're just telling me what it is, and you're being direct, and I appreciated that.
Oh, yeah. When I started doing improv, and I'm very new to it still. I mean, it's a new thing for me. I couldn't believe, first of all, I always just thought, you look at guys who are just funny, like improv comedians. And I honestly used to just think, some guys they're just naturally funny. Mm-hmm. They just can get up there and do it. And I never understood that there was a game, that they're playing a game.
Oh, right, that there's rules.
There's rules, and that you come to agreement and you understand what these rules are, and you can create something from nothing if you play together with that mindset. And so to me, improv is incredibly freeing because it's like, like you said, you take all the BS out of it. It's not, we'll see, keep going and we'll let you know when you get it right. Mm-hmm. No, that didn't work because you stepped on that person's line. That didn't work because they threw something out and you disagreed with it. Like, to me, it's like, thank you.
Yeah. You're like acting is reacting. Like that phrase. You don't really get that until you're taking improv. You really don't. Yeah. Until it's vital for you to listen to the information that's coming your way.
Yeah.
It's so important to listen to that and to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And I think in an acting class, that's just a bullshit phrase that people say. There was another phrase that I had a teacher who was really wonderful, an acting teacher. It's a woman named Gloria Maddox, who I really adored, and she would say to me, "Get off the fence," which is her way of saying commit.
Yeah.
Get off the fence.
Okay.
You're holding back. Get off the fence.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, what? What? But I'm crying. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Get off the fence? I am Cleopatra. And then I got it. I got it when I started taking improv. I really, I got that more. It was more clear to me the importance of committing and the importance, more importantly, of not caring what you look like. Of not caring that you look like an ass.
Yeah.
And those are the people who are the best to me, the ones who don't care that they look like an ass.
It's funny, too, how the audience doesn't care either. Like, I mean,
No, they really don't.
They care about the performance, but it's not. I think a lot of people think if I put myself out there, someone's going to attack me because that's the society we live in.
Yeah, the audience is going to love you forever.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. If you really put yourself out there like that.
Yeah.
Melissa McCarthy, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know.
What a gift.
Yeah.
And that's how people view her work. It's not, they don't go, look at this person just running around doing, pretending to be, Spicer.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
For
committing.
Yeah, and for caring enough about the art and about the audience to not care what you look like in the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
You did stand-up before you did improv, is that right? Or
I did stand-up.
Were exposed to improv first? Or?
Yeah, I did stand-up maybe, was it around the same time or maybe a little bit, maybe I was on a break from acting class because I could only take one class at a time.
Yeah.
And I took a stand-up class at the New School with this guy, Scott Blakeman, who was great. He's the same guy who taught Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart did the same thing. He took a stand-up class from Scott Blakeman at the New School.
Wow.
And the end result of that class, you wrote a 5-minute set, and then we had a show at Upper East Side. I can't remember which one. In New York City.
Not Gotham.
No, it's not Gotham. It's on the Upper East. Comic. It has comic in the title. I can't remember anything. I'm getting old. But anyway, I brought on my friends and I did my 5 minutes and I killed.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can keep doing this. And the thing with bringers is that eventually people, are like, oh, I can't.
Yeah. Right.
And I remember
for people who are listening to this and don't know what a bringer show is, this is the whole idea of you bring enough people, you get on stage, right?
You have to bring 10 people, you have to bring 5 people, and it's a two drink minimum. And I had a show. I did a show at Rose's Turn. Or somewhere in the Village.
Okay. And
this was the first show where I brought no one.
Yeah.
Nobody came. And it was me and 2 other comedians. It was a comedian I don't know.
Okay.
And John Fugelsang.
Wow. And
there were maybe 2 or 3 people in the audience.
Yeah.
And I did my act and nobody laughed. And
this is the same material you did with friends, and they loved it.
Yeah, the same 5 minutes that I had done out of
What is that like for folks who have never been in this moment?
Oh my God, I have anxiety. I have pretty intense anxiety, and I've never really taken medication for it. And for me, the way that I would deal with my anxiety was I would do a show and I would get a response.
Right.
I would get laughter.
Yeah.
And so I just remember my anxiety just I was panicking what is happening?
Yeah.
What is happening here? And I went home and I sat down with a legal pad and I went over my act and I started writing how can I make this better?
Yeah.
So I wrote maybe another 5 minutes so that I had a 10 minutes.
Yep.
And then I kept trying. So I would go and I would do it, and sometimes it would work and sometimes it wouldn't. Sometimes I would have friends there, sometimes it wouldn't. And then I was like, why am I doing this to myself? I don't really enjoy it. The comedians, they're not friendly.
Right.
And I just don't think, it just felt like it was so straight. Most of my friends are gay, and it's this is such a straight, bratty world, and I don't relate at all.
Yeah.
And who are you people? You and your puffy white tennis shoes. Ugh. And so I stopped.
Yeah.
And then I just did acting class until I discovered improv.
Let's talk about that. First improv show you went to when, and we're talking about long form, right? I mean, so for a lot of people, they only know improv as whose line is it anyway? Where it's
Yeah.
You're going to be this person, they're going to be that person, this is what you're doing, and here's the scene.
I didn't even know that.
Okay.
I didn't even know whose line.
Yeah.
I don't think at that time. Not till later. I had a friend, a friend of a friend who was he would fax jokes into Weekend Update at SNL.
Okay.
And we were at a dinner one night, and I asked him, like, what do I do? I'm in acting class. I'm so bored with it, and I'm tired of doing Moon for the Misbegotten, on a Thursday afternoon.
That powerful Thursday matinee.
What do I do? And he goes, you should take an improv class, and you can either go to Chicago City Limits, who I was sort of familiar with, because when I was an intern, Chicago City Limits rented space at the acting studio I was taking class at. And goes, you could take from them, and they were in a really cruddy neighborhood, on First Avenue and 50 something. Not cruddy as in dangerous, but cruddy as in like a wasteland. Yeah. And he goes, or you could go to the Upright Citizens Brigade, and they're on 17th Street between 6th and between 5th and 6th.
And UCB was very new at this point.
They were
right?
super new, and they were renting space at this place called Solo Arts, and it was like 5 blocks from my house. Okay. I was like, okay, I'm going to go do that. And so I go by myself. I was married at the time. My husband, he was like, tell me how it is. And I go to this show, and it's in this rickety building on the 6th floor. Okay. And
you knew nothing about the Upright Citizens Brigade? Hadn't seen any of their...
Knew nothing.
Okay.
And I go in, and it's this tiny, tiny little theater. It seats maybe 25 people. Yeah. And maybe. And there were 2 college boys in the audience who laughed too hard at everything. Okay. And then there was a guy who I later recognized as this guy, Ed Snibel, who I met later. There was Ed Snibel, and there was me. So it was
4 people in the audience.
4 people in the audience. And a group came out and did what I'm guessing now was a Herald. Okay. And Billy Merritt was in that group. Wow. And then Michael Delaney, who's a teacher in New York, he was in that group, and his wife was in that group. And I was like, his wife was so good. His wife was really smart and very grounded. And I was like, and I think Sean Conroy was also in the group, who was also very funny. And I watched that, and I was like, no one's here, but I like I like this. This, there's something about this that's kind of exciting. And so, Amy Poehler came up to me there, and she was like, hey, come see more shows. And if you're interested, we're doing a workshop for women. Yeah. And one of our, this girl from Chicago is coming out to teach this workshop for women. Okay. And that was Tina Fey.
And was this when Amy was on SNL at this point?
Oh, no. This is way before. Amy was working at a seafood restaurant in the Village.
It's incredible.
And so I was like, yeah, I want to do this workshop for women. Yeah. And she goes, do you have improv experience? And I lied. And I said yes, but I had never.
You didn't even know what improv was,
no.
Really?
And I was like, I'll figure it out. We'll just figure it out.
Love it.
And I was terrible, at this workshop. I was not a good one. But we had a rap session at the end, where all of these girls talked about the issues and the frustrations they had working with dudes. Yeah. And I was like, oh, is this what it's like? Am I going to be marginalized by some? And I'm 31 at this time, and by some 22-year-old little shithead, and their gripes and their concerns are legitimate, like there are things that still happen today, like being made a whore in a scene, or disregarding your initiation, or constantly playing wives, girlfriends, and that kind of role. The girls do that to themselves too. But I certainly got a lot out of it. And then when I had my first improv class at UCB, I just kind of had that in my head. Don't let this happen. Yeah. And I just I just did like
from day one.
From day one, I was like, I've got to be a strong.
You establish yourself
Yeah.
as who you want to be. Yep.
And so I did. And I hated it in the beginning. I hated improv.
You hated the classes?
My level 1 was Ian Roberts, who's a wonderful teacher, taught level 1, but like I didn't really. I'm sure that a lot of people have this feeling when they're taking improv for the first time. This insecure.
I'm hoping you're about to describe how I feel doing it.
I just felt so insecure. I was like, am I the weird one?
Yeah.
Am I the bad one? Am I the weirdo here? I can't tell. Am I like? And then there's something kind of high school also about it. Like are they planning on doing why isn't anyone talking to me? Like it was again my anxiety.
Yeah.
Like it was really, really nerve-wracking.
And you had done solo performance. Like I'd love to hear about this because you are not.
I did
not
that
just
later.
Not just solo performance. I'm thinking you had performed on stage a lot.
Oh yeah.
So very confident in your ability to get up and act.
Yeah.
And my biggest challenge with improv starting and still to this day, and I haven't even completed 401 yet, but my biggest challenge is I am on stage all the time by myself.
Yeah.
And then to initiate a scene or to be part of a scene and number one, feel out of control.
Oh yeah.
It's different than when you have lines that you're delivering. And then you just go out there and you're like, but this is something I'm supposed to be good at, and I don't know anything that's going on.
Right. It's like you'll never be able to manage the chaos.
Yeah.
Like if that's your goal is to manage it. You have to give up that kind of control, which is scary.
Or just to be in something that's very related to another type of stage performance and feel like I suck at this.
Oh no, I understand that.
So when you first started, you didn't.
No, every week I'd be like, I'm not going to go back. Like I'm not going to go back to class. My husband would be like, you should go back, and I'm like, I'm not going to go back. I'd be walking to class, being like, I'm not going to go back. I'm not going to go back.
What kept you going when you were wanting to quit?
Well, I paid for the class, and I felt accountable, and I was like, can I get this?
Yeah.
I do like it. I do like. I just had such a love-hate with it, relationship with it, because it. For me, improv is not comfortable. And I think, like, ultimately, I don't know any better. Maybe that's a good thing. Creating art, the person that creates art and then looks back at his painting and says, that's a masterpiece, is not a good artist, in my opinion.
That's great.
And being uncomfortable and being unsure and questioning your own abilities, I think, makes you maybe a better performer. Hopefully, like I'm not to say that I'm a better performer, but like I definitely. When somebody tells me, no, I don't have any problem at all. I'm always very suspicious of their abilities.
On the way here, I'm on the phone with my wife, having the conversation we have at least twice a week, questioning my decision to do this for a living, because I'm just never satisfied with it.
Yeah,
and feeling like that. Like you say, someone creates a painting and they look at it and they go, that was great. Reminding myself that, we see these work that people put out and we think that was their idea. No, that wasn't their idea of the perfect thing. At the end of the day, they had to finish the painting.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
but I constantly just question why,
Yeah, but that's healthy. Like,
okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's
because
normal.
I'm sitting there going, I'm friggin' broken.
But I think that's the way you have to be.
Yeah.
Like show me the artist.
Yeah.
Who is like, that is, I've just done a masterpiece. That'll show you a 4-year-old.
Right.
that is a 4-year-old, or that is somebody who's not very good at what they do.
Comedians who say, I killed. I was just sitting here, you didn't kill.
No, exactly. The person who thinks that they did an amazing job is not somebody who should be performing with other people.
Gosh, so good. So you go through Improv 101.
I do 101, and then
every course ends with, a performance, right? Were they doing this at that time?
My 101 performance, I went out once, and then I hated myself. Like at the end of it,
Why didn't I go out? Or why
it was just
holding back?
Yeah, it was just so angry at myself. And then I took two. Then it was just called level 2.
Yeah.
And I had Amy Poehler, and she was the best teacher ever.
Oh my goodness.
And then I started to love it. Like that was Amy. It was Amy because she connects with people. She made the class connect with each other.
Yeah.
And made created a really, really wonderful supportive environment. However, she was also very tough with her notes and very pointed, and it's like, this is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And loved her.
Yeah.
And I had her for 301 level 3.
Yeah.
And that's where we learned the Herald.
Yeah.
And she was so great. So great. She will call you on your bullshit, but she's also like fun and social and
Yep.
And Amy, like I've said this before, like on other podcasts, but she understands that, like, the secret to happiness is making other people feel good, and she is the example of that. And that should really, if you watch Amy or read anything, that should surprise no one. She's just great. And then I had Matt Besser for 3. I took 3 again because we just had 3 levels.
Okay.
And so I took 3 like 4 or 5 times,
just to keep going with
maybe
it.
more. Yeah, just to keep going.
Yep.
And each time I took with Besser after that, each class would have a different emphasis. Like one was just a pattern. Like we did nothing but pattern game for like 6 weeks. It was hard. And then I took Walsh a little later.
Okay.
And then other teachers started coming in, like Kevin Mullaney came in from New York. Oh, Armando Diaz came first. Wow. And so I took with whoever I could, and more importantly, I rehearsed. I had a practice group from level 2 on, and then I was on a team, and we rehearsed for 3 hours every week, and we worked our butts off, and like that's where you really start to learn and get good, is when you're.
What was the moment when you said, "Okay, I'm good at this," or I've not in an egotistical way, but in a way of like realizing, okay, this is something that I'm gonna now do?
Well, I remember the moment where I finally understood game, and it was after I'd been on a team for a long time, honestly. And then I was watching another team, and there was a girl on that team who I was watching, and I was like, oh, I see what she's doing. I see how she's playing this game analogously.
Yeah.
She's the first scene, it's a couple, and then in the second beat, she's put the bones of the game into an office situation. And then I would watch her a lot, and it would be like, she does that every time. So it was kind of her go-to.
Okay.
But that illuminated it for me. And also Besser created this form called Immortal Combat.
Okay.
And Immortal Combat really dealt with all of the components of not just the Herald, but a long form.
Yeah.
It dealt with like things like justifying and being specific about your location and character and walk-ons and time dashes and that just focusing on like one technique.
Yeah.
Really helped me learn. And so it took me then I really understood how to take a game and put it in another place. And I'd much rather do that, to be honest, than time dashes.
Yep.
I like analogous scenes. Like I appreciate that a lot more. Because it's more fun.
Yeah.
It's more fun to see where you can go and to not be so dear with the details of that first scene.
It's been maybe 8 or 9 months since I took my last class. And
I think it's good to take that kind of break, though.
Yeah, it's been good, but like right now I'm just sitting here like getting so amped up, like I need to get back into class.
Oh,
because growing up doing comedy like more of stand-up and magic show, comedy based around a magic act.
Yeah.
You curate these pieces that are routines that you do. You have all these bits and you weave them together, and the whole idea is you're gonna make this show and do this show. And one of the things that I like about that is the creative aspect of it. I love when we're putting together something new. Mm-hmm. But then when you do that same bit over and over and over, I don't like it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm not enjoying about life right now, is I feel like I'm doing an act other people enjoy, but I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because it's old.
Uh-huh.
And the thing about improv that blew me away, was number one, when you see a great team working together.
Yeah.
Just how somebody from a one-word suggestion can create this beautiful piece of art. I mean, really, just this amazing thing. And then at the end of the night, that thing is never going to happen like that again.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. That's the best.
Like this whole idea of, okay, we're going to go out, we're going to do a 45-minute set. Mm-hmm. We're going to make it up as we go. And if it's the worst thing ever, we're never doing it again. But
right.
if it's the best thing ever, we're still never doing it again.
Yeah. No, I think that's the beauty of it. Improv is ephemeral, of creating something fun and then letting it fly to the wind. Yeah, that's what's fun.
I remember,
and when you have a team that really cooks, that's really really great together. Last night I saw Magic to Do, which is one of my favorite shows.
It's an improvised musical.
Yeah, so although it's musical improv. Improv. Baby Wants Candy does like a full musical, which is like plot driven, but their show is more game driven.
Okay,
and they just have such a great dynamic and to operate, and Aaron too, who is their accompanist.
Yeah.
They're working at a level that just blows my mind.
Yeah.
It's so much fun to see and watch, and I just love them so much.
First time I saw ASCAT here.
Oh yeah.
I had no exposure to who Matt Besser was prior to it. Mm-hmm. And Besser comes out and opens, and for 30 minutes.
Oh yeah, talks.
For 30 minutes does this engaging conversational comedy that's being created on the spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was just
crowd work. He's still improvising.
Right.
Like I think that kind of the comedian who can do that is the best. Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers loved crowd work.
Yeah.
Todd Barry. Todd Barry did a documentary. There's about or it's not a documentary. It's just like a comedy show.
Okay.
That's I think it's on Netflix, where it's just him doing that, just coming out and starting with nothing.
Yeah.
And engaging the audience and seeing where he can go, and it's so funny.
I have to look at that, because when I saw Besser do that. And I've seen comedians do, 3 or 4 or 5 minutes in their show of crowd work. Mm-hmm. But he just straight up did like 30, 40 minutes off the top. Mm-hmm. And it was hilarious.
Yeah, he's great. He's such a funny guy.
It's challenging, like in a wonderful way, to see people do it. Mm-hmm. You act and you do film and commercial and different things like that as well. But I mean, when did you go, I'm now an improvisational comedian?
Oh, okay. So when I started doing improv, at that time I was working at Court TV, which is the most soul-sucking job. Not only at Court TV, and I really love crime and murder, and we had to watch the trials. That we had a TV on our desk where we had to have Court TV on 24/7, and I would just watch those trials. I loved them. However, it was a soul-sucking job because I was working in ad sales, and I was the assistant to the head of ad sales, and he was a boob, and oh God, it was just miserable. And then I'd gotten started freelancing with a commercial agent, which in New York, they don't do this here so much, but in New York, you can freelance with multiple agencies.
Okay.
And so I was freelancing, and I'd get commercial auditions, and my dick boss was not cool about leaving to go audition, which I guess is normal. He's not a dick because of that. He was a dick for other reasons.
Yeah, he earned that title in numerous ways.
The girl that worked in the cube next to me, she was delighted in creating this ruse whenever I had to leave, where my boss would come out and be like, "Where is she?" And she'd be like, "She's in the bathroom," or "She's down on 2." And so we maintained this ruse for like several months until it just got too hard, and then I left that job.
Yeah,
and then I got like a temp job. I was temping while I was improvising at the same time, because it was hard. Because I would take improv on the weekends, and then I would work from 8 to 6. And then after work, I would head to the theater and go see shows or do a show. And sometimes it would be like 2 a.m. when I got home, and then I would have to be up at 6 to get ready to go to work. And it was just too much.
Yeah.
And then I started getting work, here and there. I would do Conan a lot.
Yeah.
Conan was actually I think the first thing that I had gotten. And then I booked another commercial here and there. And then and I was temping, and then I started teaching. And then when I started teaching, it's like I wasn't making as much as I would be making at a full-time job, but I was making like at least a little bit of money.
Yeah. And give you the freedom to still do
I was at least happy.
Yep.
I was poor, but a lot poorer, but I was much, much happier.
This is my buddy Christian was on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and he's a drummer, and we were talking about what he calls it the curse. The idea that for him it's music, but for others it's comedy or film, where it's someone could say, I'm going to give you $80,000 a year to go do this desk job, or you're going to make $20,000-$30,000 to play the drums. And he's like, all day I'll take the $20,000-$30,000 to go play drums.
Yeah.
He's like, because I'm happier doing that with less than I would be.
Exactly. I agree 100%. Like I would do I would do the same thing, even though like money's a struggle.
Right. Well, and we're in Southern California, which is not the cheapest place to live.
No, it's not.
You mentioned kind of this, not disillusionment, but like when you were going to school for theater, and then you actually got involved in like getting work in performance. Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that you learned that you think a lot of people maybe coming to LA trying to get started, they just would be very helpful to know? Or
it's on you.
Yep.
It's on you. It's on you to submit yourself for stuff.
Yep.
It's on you. Like when I moved to LA, like I think I did a better job when I moved here than I did in New York.
Yeah.
New York has an attitude. New York, which should surprise no one. And I love New York, but New York in the business is very small. Commercially, they're pretty big. But come on, LA it's massive.
Yeah.
It's like this is the business. Show business is here.
Yep.
New York has a lot going on. LA has
everything going on.
Show business and then a few other things.
Yep.
And when I moved here, I knew one casting director. I knew Julie Ashton because I had auditioned for Mad TV. And so when I moved here, I sent her a letter being like, "Hi, I'm here," and never heard back. And then I started doing casting workshops, which are a lot of those casting workshops are in hot water right now because they've. A lot of people have been indicted because it's like they're kind of scammy.
Okay.
However, the one that I did, I never felt like it was a total scam. Like there were some workshops that I was like, but I did Real Pros in Sherman Oaks.
Yeah.
And I liked Real Pros because there was a quality control built into their system. They always.
What was that? How did they do that?
In every workshop they would have a member watching, and so if an actor got up who was like, "Hello, my name, who was like wooden or like did not know how to act, they couldn't do it. They would get booted.
Yeah.
And I met like a lot of different casting directors there.
Yeah.
And I got called in a couple of times from that, so I felt like I was doing something. And then I got a really shitty, shady commercial agent. Really shady. And it was the kind of thing where it's like,
Yeah, what are some of the things people should look out for? Like
Yeah.
like how do you know they're shady?
we'll sign you, but you have to get new headshots, and you have to go to
our
one
guy.
of these people. That's like red flag number one.
This is the insurance company saying you can get your car fixed at this.
Yeah, exactly. And so I went and did my I got new headshots from the person that they recommended.
Yeah.
And then like would never hear from them again. And so boom, goodbye.
Yeah.
And then I signed up. There's this woman named Dallas Travers who does she does a lot of workshops and stuff about like taking control of your career. And I did a few of those and I got a lot out of that. And then she had a service where she would send your materials to different agencies.
Yeah.
And nicely packaged. And from that, I got a call from the agency that I'm at now. I've been at the same agency for several years, but I'm on my third agent there.
Okay.
And my agent there is a guy named Nick Diarmendi, who's wonderful.
Yeah.
And third time is the charm. I love him. We have a good rapport. He understands comedy. He understands me.
Yeah, that's big.
And so I'm very, very happy, like where I am. But in between, I was submitting myself constantly.
Yeah.
I was always looking for opportunities, and I would just say yes to everything. You want to shoot something this Thursday? Yes. Like I did not say no to things. I said yes as much as I could, and so I would tell people that.
Just gotta hustle.
Say yes. Don't say no because you think it's beneath you, or because it's not enough money. Do things for free.
Yep.
Just do what you can, because it's going to pay off, and it'll get you used to working, and working on camera. Also, the first job that I had in LA was working like a glorified background role on Little Britain USA, which was, I loved Little Britain. And I knew they were doing an American version. And I was like, I know that they're going to do that Weight Watchers-esque support group thing. They have to do that in their American show. And so I started combing the like on Actors Access and stuff, looking for where they're looking for fat people, and I found something, and then I submitted myself. I got called in, and then I became one of the people in the group. Wow. And I had never worked multicam before, and I had never worked on a stage before, ever, except for at Conan.
Yeah.
And so that was like, that was an education.
Yeah.
And
what did you learn about multicam that day?
That it's a long process, and that it's choreographed, and it takes a long freaking time. Yeah. And I learned like just watching the machinations from like sitting up in the audience and seeing how everything was put together was so illuminating. And it like background sucks, but like if you've just moved here, do background so you can get used to working in the studio and seeing like what that process is like, because it's very, very different. Very, very different.
I think a lot of people might get an opportunity that's great, but they blow it because they haven't been on set or known how things work.
I think that's true.
Handled it appropriately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so many people think, I'm just going to get, I'm going to move to LA and I'm going to get my headshot, and then someone's going to discover me at the Galleria or something.
Yeah, and it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen.
That's a big thing I've realized too. Like, when I made the move to say, okay, I'm going to do this full time with, doing shows. you can have an agent, you can be on all these different, websites of like directors and stuff, but it's like if you don't, at the end of the day, they're not going to bed thinking, I really got to get Taylor some work.
Yeah. Nobody is thinking you have to do it yourself. Nobody is thinking, I can't wait to throw you a bone.
Right.
Nobody is thinking that.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Any tips on auditioning? Other than like, prepare for humiliation is my appearance.
Yeah, I have a couple.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about commercial auditions because I'm terrible at those. But if you're auditioning for something for television or for a movie or for a film, know the script. Or know your sides.
Yeah.
Know them. Memorize them. Don't
improvise that.
Yeah, don't go in and just read.
Yeah.
And also don't go in and memorized and not have the paper there. Have the paper there, but have it memorized so that you don't have to look down at the page all the time, that you can only look down at key times. I have to say that when I was always like, I never memorize. They don't want you to memorize. They want it to feel fresh, but you're just, you have your head down.
Yeah.
And when you really memorize it, you do better.
Yeah.
So memorize your script.
Yeah.
Take an hour and really learn it. And if it's long, learn it the best you can.
Yeah.
But I think that's a big one. That's a big one. And don't wear stripes.
Don't wear stripes?
Yeah.
Why no stripes?
Just because it looks weird on camera.
Oh, on camera. I have very little experience with auditions, but everyone I've done has been different, and I've been and it's just been terrifying.
Do you not have a commercial?
No.
Really?
No.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, no, I haven't. I've had a few, I've gone out, some Actors Access, I'll just send out, and they said come in. I read twice for Modern Family and tanked both times. But it was the funny thing. I got a casting director sent me a thing that said, "We think this might be a good thing for you." And I opened it and it said, "The role of pale white man must be doughy." And I wasn't even sad. I was like, "Finally, I fit this role perfectly." Oh, but yeah.
Well, that's great. You auditioned for Modern Family.
It was an experience. It was fun.
Do you have a manager?
Only for my comedy magic stuff. I don't have anything for the. I'm
surprised that you don't I would think that you'd be a good commercial type. That you'd be a commercial dad.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah.
We'll talk off the podcast about I asked Julie to come on this so I could get tips on well, this, the big thing with the podcast is I always tell people it's not a how-to, which this has been incredibly informative just in your experience, but it's more of not a how to make it, it's a how to keep going when you're not making it. What are some of the because there is there's high times to this and there's low times.
Yeah,
and
I have low times.
How do you get through kind of some of those times when it's the show didn't go great or you didn't nail that audition or whatever?
You're not talking about financially. You just mean to get you through.
If you got tips on how to keep money coming in, but more of just the emotional side, at least for me, is a big deal.
Friends, friends, I think are good.
Yeah.
Have a life outside of this thing you do.
Yeah.
This shouldn't be the only thing you do. You have a family. That's great, and I'm sure that keeps you sane.
Yeah.
I'll take other classes. I write. I try to keep my mind open to other types of experiences that have nothing to do with this business.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means going to a museum or going to Descanso Gardens or to Huntington.
Yeah.
Or other, just, try to do other things. I love driving.
Yeah.
I love it. I'll drive, once every not once a month. That's probably not that much, but once every 2 months.
Yeah.
I drive up the Angeles Crest highway.
Just get out
and
just go on a road trip.
Maybe get off and do walk for a little while. I just try to get out of the city.
Yeah.
And that helps me. And I also love Joshua Tree. I try to go there.
I just went for the first time. I lived here my whole life. Never been to Joshua Tree.
The best.
I went like 6 months ago. It was incredible.
Yeah, it's
beautiful.
so great. Like really, especially if you live here, take advantage of the beautiful resources that we have here. It's just California is so beautiful, and there's so many beautiful places that are within a stone's throw of this city.
Yeah.
Just take advantage of it.
That's one of the things about Southern California is, you could be at the beach in an hour, you could be to the mountains in an hour.
Yeah. It's fantastic. Like me and my friend Richard, the last time we did this, we drove up the Angeles Crest highway to go. We went up to Mount Wilson.
Okay.
This was just to see snow.
Yeah.
Because there was some snow up there. So we drove up, parked in the parking lot, walked around, had a snowball fight, left and went down to Clearman's North Woods Inn and had a disgusting lunch.
Love it.
Was
the
that
cheese bread and that salad.
Yes.
That's a good salad.
And it's so good.
Nothing in this but cabbage. It's so good, though. I don't know what they put on it.
I remember my friend, Richard, he ordered a Manhattan.
Yeah.
And it came back and it was clear.
You're like, wait a minute.
It's no.
This is not a Manhattan.
Yeah. It's it's your fault for ordering a Manhattan. At Clearman's Northwoods Inn. but that day was so restorative.
Yeah.
And you have to look for those moments and participate in them.
And not to do it for the art, but a reminder that if you're not out living life,
yeah,
I mean, with improv, I was shocked. One of the things, you got to know what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Because stuff will come up in a scene.
You have to be up on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to be up on what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
That's true. It's not for people that don't read or don't that aren't interested in the news or in what's going on.
And that can be hard too, because sometimes the news ain't so.
This is a rough time.
It's a rough time.
It's a rough time.
And it's funny too, because sometimes it leads to good material, and other times it's just depressing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Another scene about Trump.
It'll be fascinating to see where it all, what creative things will come out of all of this.
Oh yeah.
We'll in a couple of years we're gonna be treated to some interesting pieces of work.
Yeah. Tragedy and comedy are very closely tied together.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Right next door.
But Julie, this has been so wonderful for me personally, and I just appreciate
absolutely, Taylor. Me too. I enjoyed it very much.
Well, thank you. What can people do to stay in touch with you or see what you got going on, or what's coming up? Where can they come see you? Or?
On Twitter, I'm at Bristasolja, BRISTAHSOULJAH.
We'll put a link in the show notes too, so you can just click and follow right now.
That's one thing, and then I'm on the new season of Review on Comedy Central, which is a 3-episode third season. We just have 3 episodes to kind of wrap up the story, and that debuts on Comedy Central on March 16th.
Love it. Julie, thank you. You're
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you.